Hello, my name is Melvin Nano, and this is my PowerPoint presentation for Kinesiology 332 Lifelong Motor Development. Um, Today I'll be talking about gait development throughout the lifespan. So I want to start off first by explaining what exactly is gait. Gait is defined as a person's pattern of walking. Walking involves balance and coordination of muscles so that the body is propelled in a rhythm called a stride. As we age, we all develop unique characteristics of our walking pattern influenced by certain constraints, which I'll go over, throughout the PowerPoint. Um, but I'm going to go in a little bit more into detail about the phases of gait. So in the phases of gait, it's divided into two main phases, the stance phase and the swing phase. Uh, in the stance phase, we have initial contact, loading response, which is more of the double limb support, and then into the single limb support, which is the mid stance, terminal stance. And after the terminal stance, we start with the actual swing phase. First, by the pre-swing. Again, this starts the double limb support into the initial swing, then the mid swing, and then into the terminal swing. After the terminal swing, we go right back to the initial contact and repeat the whole phase of gait. Um, like I said about constraints, constraints is a really important factor when determining how the gait will develop. A constraint is a characteristic of the individual environment or task that encourages some movement while discouraging others, as said by Haywood and Getchell. Types of constraints, it could fall in different categories, but the main ones I'll be talking about that affect it is individual constraints that could be subdivided into structural constraints, functional constraints. There's also environmental constraints and task constraints. Again, I'll be going over it a little bit more into detail about later in the PowerPoint. But first, we start off in gait development in early childhood. Usually, this is typically when the baby starts to walk around 9 to 12 months. But characteristics of gait in early childhood start off by a wide base of support to compensate for the lack of balance and stability. Like a wide base of support, the lower body of the toddler also has a wide stretch of arms positioning and external rotation and abduction of the shoulder to compensate for the lack of balance. Step length is unsynchronized, creating an uneven step length. Lack of heel to toe contact during initial contact, in which the baby walks rather flat-footed. Due to lack of hip and leg extension, the toddlers will tend to display increased cadence and decreased stride length. When walking, the pelvis is rather stiff and lacks proper pelvic tilt and rotation. Abnormalities in early childhood development. I chose Down syndrome because it's a common thing, gait abnormality among early childhood. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder caused when an abnormal cell division results in extra genetic material from chromosome 21. Down syndrome causes a distinct facial appearance, intellectual disability, developmental delays, and may be associated with thyroid or heart disease. Gait abnormalities is very common people with Down and kids with Down syndrome because typically they tend to walk different. They typically learn to walk with more of their feet wide apart, their knees stiff, and feet turned out. Down syndrome children also have more likelihood of hypotonia, in other words, low muscle tone, which causes a little bit more flaccid movement. Flaccid muscle tone. And also obesity can play a big factor in the abnormal development of gait because kids with Down syndrome, a little bit more common to have obesity compared to the average kid. So with that said, gait into childhood, this is when a lot of changes occur. Changes will typically occur until the age of 4. By then, most children will have the essential ingredients of an advanced walk. Again, as said by Haywood and Getchell. Major changes from early childhood to childhood include increase in strength, which leads to increase in stride length, fuller range of motion in the hips, knees, and ankles, narrow base of support, arms drop down and closer to the body, and they develop a more synchronized walk. Abnormalities is very common and start varying in the childhood. Structural abnormalities include femoral version, which is a change in angle of the femur, leads to knock-knee or internal rotation of the femur, or bow-legged, which is external rotation of the femur. Pes planus, also called flat feet, is a condition in which the longitudinal arch of the foot, which runs lengthwise along the sole of the foot, does not properly develop and is flattened out. Toe walking, in which a child walks on his or her balls of the feet with no contact to the heel of the ground. When we studied the video in this class about the child, she actually had a distinct toe walking. So this is very common. Abnormalities in childhood continued. Another abnormality of gait that kids tend to have congenital is cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a condition marked by impaired muscle coordination or other disabilities, typically caused by damage to the brain before or at birth. Gait deviations will vary depending on severity of the condition. However, typical abnormalities will include internal rotation of the thigh bone or the femur, external rotation of the lower leg or the tibia, hyperextension of the knee, severe flat feet, all lead to a spastic type of gait. So with that said, now I'm going to start talking about gait into the adulthood. Gait into the adulthood is a lot more different because few developmental changes occur from childhood to adulthood. Changes in adulthood become less predictable since change is more individualized and based on changing individual constraints. Changes become more universal to the variety of constraints mentioned earlier. Changes of gait are determined by the individual's weight gain or loss, strength, balance, and more environmental factors. Going back to constraints, at this stage, adults will have so many variety of lifestyles that will influence the way gait will continue into older adulthood. Depending on the individual's constraints, this will determine how soon abnormalities will develop when they reach older adulthood. So going to the constraints, individual constraints, structural constraints is very important on the development because now adults will have a variety of height, weight, and muscular strength. Functional constraints is a big thing because adults will have different personalities and behaviors that will lead to how the adult's gait will develop in later adulthood. One example is that someone who may be like a daredevil or something are more likely to develop like a osteoarthritis or something because of the impact they put into that. Anyways, environmental constraints is a big thing because this will include cultural influence, living environment, and work environment. So again, all these different constraints will definitely change each individual's gait pattern. All this is mainly changing in the adulthood. So speaking of gait, now we're going more into gait in older adulthood. So in older adulthood, developmental gait becomes again more predictable due to the natural aging process. It still will vary, but usually most people will start like the early childhood, older adulthood, they start coming back into more similar gait patterns. Like they say, you can't beat father time. So that's why everyone will start going into this type of developmental phase of gait. Changes include step length in older men was approximately shorter. Older men toed out approximately 3 centimeters more than younger men. Older men has reduced ankle dorsiflexion. Older men pelvic rotation was diminished, as said by Haywood and Getchell. So abnormalities in older adulthood, this this can vary a lot in different abnormalities because at this age, adults start developing different kinds of disorders and disease through the process of aging. But the most common disease or disorder that people will develop is osteoarthritis, which is a wearing down or protective tissue at the ends of the bones. Stroke is another disorder that causes developmental or that causes changes in gait. And a stroke is basically a damage to the brain from interruption of blood supply. Parkinson's is a big thing that changes the gait. Parkinson's is a progressive disease of the nervous system in which degeneration of the basal ganglia is observed. Characteristics in gait in older adulthood. Deviations of these gaits, these conditions I mentioned earlier, cause an arthritis. They cause an antalgic gait, or is often described where the stance phase of gait is abnormally shortened relative to the swing phase. Because of pain, it is a good indication of weight-bearing pain. Stroke, they usually develop what's called an ataxic gait, or is often characterized by difficulty walking in a straight line, lateral veering, poor balance, a widened base of support, inconsistent arm motion, and a lack of repetibility. Parkinson's, they develop usually what is called a festinating gait, or is often described by people with, or is often described as like being stuck in place when initiating a step or turning, and can increase the risk of falling. So, with that said, there are so many theories and perspectives throughout the lifespan of gait. Usually, these theories are explained by maturational perspective, explains the development of change as a function of maturational process that control or dictate motor development. Information processing perspective. In this perspective, the brain acts like a computer, taking information, processing it, and outputting movement. Ecological perspective stresses the interrelationship between the person and the environment and the tasks. Usually these perspectives will usually fall within the early childhood and childhood phase or developmental phase. So in conclusion, developments of gait will vary throughout the lifespan, bearing congenital conditions. Infants and young children will present with the similar gait patterns, but it is when we reach young adulthood and when our gait patterns will start to change due to our lifestyle. And once we hit older adulthood, gait patterns start to become more similar again. So that is it for my presentation. These are my references. Yes.